A New Jersey housewife disappeared after an ominous request of a friend, an uncharacteristic confrontation, and a tripped burglar alarm at her home. And how did her remains end up on a beach 45 miles away? Patricia Viola was a 42-year-old housewife and mother who lived with her husband James and their children, Christine and Michael. They lived in Bogota in suburban New Jersey, a charming town just a few miles away from the George Washington Bridge, which crosses into Upper Manhattan. Patricia was known for going above and beyond to make special occasions even more special for her family. She loved making elaborate homemade cakes and perfectly personalized presents for every holiday. She was a volunteer librarian at her son's school in her free time. Friends and family remember her generosity and her overall love for taking care of her family. In the last months of her life, Patricia had spent many hours caring for her sick mother-in-law and helping out her sister-in-law, Donna, who was staying in the Viola household after a difficult breakup. As much as people remember and praise Patricia's enthusiasm for taking care of others and for turning holidays into huge productions, there was undeniably a considerable amount of stress on her. She evidently held herself to high expectations, said one family member, and the people in her life had come to expect her for going above and beyond. Patricia had epilepsy and normally carried her medication with her at all times. Roughly 3 months prior to her disappearance, in November of 2000, Patricia experienced a grand mal seizure. Following this, her driver's license was suspended for 90 days at the recommendation of her doctor. This was hugely limiting to Patricia's independence and mobility, and reportedly impacted her morale heavily. She could no longer easily do the things she loved, such as going to the mall alone to buy presents for her family, which she expressed sadness about during the Christmas season. Additionally, it made family obligations even more difficult. For instance, Patricia having to travel across town to check on her mother-in-law in the hospital became all the more stressful and time-consuming. In the weeks prior to her disappearance, the stress in Patricia's life continued to mount. Several events were weighing on her heavily and gave loved ones reason to worry. On February 6th, 1 week prior to Patricia going missing, Patricia received upsetting news. Her doctor was recommending another 90-day suspension of her driving privileges, extending her time without a license until at least late spring. Patricia was reportedly incredibly depressed by this news. Tensions between Patricia and Donna, her sister-in-law, were continuing to build, following issues that arose from Donna staying at the Viola household. Donna was a smoker and Patricia was not. She did not approve of Donna smoking in the house and had so far been unable to convince her to stop. The typically level-headed and non-confrontational Patricia had been managing the effects of Donna's indoor smoking instead by cleaning, vacuuming, and airing out Donna's room on a daily basis. The day before she went missing, Patricia discovered that Donna had burned a hole in the guest bedspread, a move that could have started a fire and put the entire family in danger. Although Patricia was upset, she and her husband decided to wait to address it with Donna until the following day. On February 12, 2001, the night before Patricia's disappearance, she and Jim attended a party in Brooklyn, New York, at the home of Patricia's best friend and close confidant, Toinette Fazio Markowitz. When Patricia arrived at the party, Toinette noticed that she was immaculately dressed, with her hair and makeup done beautifully and fittingly for the occasion. But even then, Toinette recalls she knew something was amiss. As the party progressed, Patricia pulled Toinette into an empty bedroom in order to speak with her privately. Once alone with her friend, Patricia burst into tears. Through heaving sobs, she managed to tell Toinette that she had something which she needed to discuss. But when Toinette pressed her for more details repeatedly, Patricia insisted that the full story was far too complicated to explain that moment. While she did not reveal what was ailing her, Patricia did, however, ask two things of her best friend. First, she begged Toinette to cancel her upcoming personal vacation, to which her best friend confusingly agreed. Patricia tearfully claimed that she would soon finally tell Toinette everything if the two of them could just go away together for a few days. She then chillingly asked Toinette for another favor. She asked that Toinette, quote, take care of her kids, no matter what. On the morning of Tuesday, February 13th, 2001, Jim left for work at his usual departure time of 6:30 a.m. At 8:15, Christine and Michael left for school. Shortly after, Toinette called Patricia to discuss her emotional breakdown the night before. Shockingly, Toinette recalls Patricia brushing off the situation completely, instead redirecting the telephone conversation to the topic of a gag gift that she intended to buy Jim for Valentine's Day, which was to occur the next day. The present she discussed buying Jim was that of a singing monkey in a cage, similar to one that Toinette had bought for her own husband. Shockingly to Toinette, Patricia gave no explanation for the events of the previous night, nor space in the conversation to even broach the subject. Toinette remembers thinking to herself that Patricia sounded tired and seemed in a hurry to get off of the phone. Immediately after hanging up with Toinette, Patricia reportedly stormed downstairs to confront her sister-in-law, Donna. Her anger stemmed from the danger that was brought about by the cigarette-burned bedspread. This confrontation, her husband Jim would later remark, was extraordinarily out of character for Patricia. Jim recalls being told by his sister that Patricia acted irate and screamed, quote, like a raving maniac. All of this occurred in the mere 20 minutes after the children left for school. At 8:38 a.m., Patricia left her home and walked to Bixby Elementary School, where she volunteered as a librarian. Bixby Elementary was located on the corner of Fisher and Chestnut Avenues, less than 2 blocks away from the family home and an easy walk. Patricia spent roughly 2 hours at the library that day, spending her time shelving books and assisting at the checkout counter. At some point after Patricia left for the library, a local security company got a report of a security alarm going off at the Viola home. At first, they tried to contact Patricia, but they were unable to reach her. Those close to her say that while Patricia did have a cell phone, she rarely turned it on. The security company then tried to contact Jim, who was unreachable due to his being at work. The alarm company then called Patricia's mother, who answered the call and promptly called the Viola home to check on her daughter. Finding no answer to her phone call, Patricia's mom left a concerned voicemail on the home's answering machine. The alarm going off also triggered contact with the local Bogota Police Department. Officers from the station performed a visual check of the exterior of the home by walking the perimeter of the property and checking in the windows. Ultimately, they determined that nothing looked abnormal and deduced that the front door probably did not close fully when Patricia left. Such a situation would have triggered the alarm and had happened in the past, so the scenario was not out of the ordinary for the quiet town. Between 11:35 and 11:40 a.m., Patricia left her volunteer position at the elementary school and began her walk home. On her short trip, Patricia was witnessed by a crossing guard on Palisade Avenue. She also waved at a passing mailman. This would be the last confirmed sighting of her. Patricia arrived home to the answering machine blinking. Reports say that she listened to the message from her mother and returned the call. During this telephone conversation, Patricia assured her mother that everything was fine at the home and that she was aware of the alarm situation. Her mom recalls that the rest of the conversation was normal. This would be the last time that anyone on record ever spoke with Patricia Viola. At some point between 1:11 p.m. and 4 p.m., Patricia, by unknown means and for unknown reasons, left her home again. She had no mode of transportation and had not told anybody, not her husband, her mother, her best friend Toinette, nor anyone at the library, about any plans to go anywhere that day. According to a reading of the alarm control panel, Patricia performed a reset of the home security system at 1:11 p.m. Likely, this was her rearming the alarm system on her way out of the home. As the alarm had been triggered that morning, a reset of the system was required in order to rearm the security capabilities. As such, many assume that the mother of two left the home sometime between the reset at 1:11 p.m. and when Jim returned home from work, which was at 4:30 p.m. Nobody knows if Patricia left voluntarily or if she was forced to leave. At 4:30 p.m., Jim returned home to find the alarm had been reset and was beeping at his entry. Upon entering the house, he noticed that Patricia was nowhere to be found. As the family only set the alarm system before going to bed or prior to leaving the house, Jim deduced that his wife was not home, but he did not become concerned until he saw all that was left behind. Although Patricia's coat was missing, her purse, keys, cell phone, ID, and epilepsy medicine was still at home. The fact that Patricia failed to bring her anti-seizure medication was the most concerning to those closest to her, as she was meticulous about taking and carrying her medication. She required the medicine twice a day in order to stave off future seizures, which could further restrict her driving capabilities. Because of the architecture of the back door, the Viola family had to use a key to lock it. This key was always left inserted into the deadbolt. Strangely, when he got home, Jim found the key lying on the kitchen table, which was out of place. Confident that Patricia could have only departed the home on foot, Jim called friends and family while also consulting bus schedules to try and locate his wife. With no luck and having exhausted his options, at 11:58, Jim, now frantic, called police to report Patricia missing. Captain James Sepp of the Bogota Police Department took his complaint, and over the following days, local police conducted door-to-door searches to speak with neighbors, consulted taxi logs from all the car services in town, and stopped buses to be searched along the main routes. While the community response was robust, it was all to no avail. The Bogota Police Department also consulted with Port Authority Police to inspect flight manifests from nearby airports. They also checked that no jumping attempts had been reported at the George Washington Bridge that day. The Viola family, alongside concerned neighbors and friends, papered the area with missing person flyers. 3 days after Patricia's disappearance, investigators brought in police dogs to search the ground while also conducting aerial searches. Law enforcement kept in touch with area hospitals as well. However, no Jane Does nor Patricia Violas were ever checked in. Nothing, no evidence, no trace of Patricia's whereabouts or even her mere presence turned up in the ensuing days. Each day that progressed with no news caused Patricia's family to fear that the worst had happened. 2 weeks after Patricia went missing, frustrated at the stagnation of the investigation, Jim and Toinette intensified their own search for Patricia. Toinette spoke to every drugstore and corner shop located within walking distance from the Viola home. The pair noted that the singing monkey gift that Patricia had mentioned wanting to buy for Jim was in stock at a Rite Aid pharmacy nearby. Toinette showed the store clerk a picture of Patricia, and the worker did recall seeing Patricia in the store on the day she went missing. However, he said that he had no idea where or in which direction she went after leaving the store. Jim focused his search on local hospitals as well, as his theory at the time was that Patricia may have had another epileptic seizure, of which amnesia could be a possible side effect. But just as police had canvassed and come up with no leads, so too did Patricia's husband. Jim himself was investigated, as the husband or romantic partner is statistically the most likely to have committed violence against a missing woman. But eventually, he was ruled out by investigators. He first drew suspicion when it was discovered that he had taken the afternoon off of work the day that his wife went missing. But his alibi of being out shopping for Valentine's Day gifts for his wife checked out. He also passed a polygraph exam and has been fully cooperative with the investigation. Jim has continued to keep Patricia's case alive through legislation, media coverage, online discussions, and posters. Some close to the case wondered if there was more to the conflict that Patricia had had with Donna, Patricia's sister-in-law. It was agreed by all that her confrontation and subsequent harsh words were extremely out of character. Some suggested that possibly Donna had tripped the alarm in order to draw Patricia home early, and some also wonder where she was the day Patricia went missing and whether or not she was in the house when Patricia returned home from the library. Those close to the case say that it is odd Donna has not participated in any of the interviews or TV specials related to the case. 1 month after Patricia's disappearance, investigators received a tip from someone who said he saw the woman in East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, while stopped at a red light. The Viola family did have a timeshare in nearby Shawnee, Pennsylvania, but although there was hope that the sighting would prove legitimate, nothing ever came of this, and it is unclear if the witness ever actually saw Patricia or merely a woman who looked similar to her. 1 year after Patricia mysteriously vanished, a man called the Bogota Police Department and claimed that Patricia was in fact dead. He also claimed responsibility for the killing. He said to investigators on the phone, quote, "I killed the old girl." But soon, the police were able to rule this out as a false confession, as the caller had also claimed to have Patricia's driver's license with him, which she had most certainly left behind when she vanished. Further investigation by police into this matter eventually proved this man's confession a hoax. Then, on the stiflingly hot summer day of July 27th, 2002, a left foot, shoe, and sock were discovered washed up on the 123rd Street stretch of Rockaway Beach in Queens, New York. This was roughly 45 miles away from the Viola's home in New Jersey. Rockaway Beach runs roughly 5.5 miles across the Atlantic Ocean, with projected currents making it so Patricia's origination was undetermined. Police did conduct additional searches on foot and by helicopter, but no additional remains nor clues ever surfaced. DNA samples were taken along with the remains in 2005 to be tested. In 2009, New York sent the DNA sample to the Combined DNA Index System lab in West Texas. In 2008, New Jersey finally adopted Patricia's Law after tireless efforts by her husband Jim to get laws concerning missing people passed. This law was to supplement Title 52 of the revised statutes, which develops a best practices protocol for all law enforcement agencies to follow when addressing reports of missing persons or unidentified deceased human remains. The new law forced officers to begin to investigate missing persons reports immediately and required that DNA be secured from victims' family and cross-checked in national databases for cases open longer than 30 days. By 2010, requirements to cross-check DNA under Patricia's Law were securely in place. On September 12, 2012, poignantly, the first missing person whose remains were officially identified through the adoption of this new law was Patricia Viola herself. Her remains were identified by the New York City Medical Examiner's Office. No other artifacts have ever been recovered in connection to her case. With only 1 foot to go on, no cause of death could ever be determined. Investigators continue to suspect foul play and ask the public for any help or information. On February 25, 2013, Patricia Viola was buried in Hackensack Cemetery in New Jersey. If Patricia had or was in the middle of another epileptic seizure, it could have explained her erratic behavior in the days leading up to her disappearance. Due to experiencing such an event, it was possible that she had left her home for unknown reasons and then tried to seek medical attention for an attack that happened en route, or perhaps her exit was initially for medical services themselves. As with neurological side effects, she may have not been in a state to contact anybody or indicate her whereabouts. Some wonder if perhaps Patricia had a seizure on her way back home from Rite Aid and then disappeared somewhere along her route. In a morbid and odd connection to another murder case, Just 5 years before Patricia went missing, in October of 1997, a triple homicide occurred in the house directly across the street from the Viola home. The incident had been a robbery homicide which targeted a diamond dealer in the house. Besides the diamond dealer, 2 others were murdered as well. 4 men were eventually arrested for the crime, and their trial was currently underway at the time of Patricia's disappearance. According to available reports and information, Patricia was not a witness to that crime and had no official ties to it. Still, some theorize that she was potentially kidnapped or killed, either because someone believed her to be a witness or because of a case of mistaken identity targeting an actual witness in the area. Others wonder about the curious incident with the alarm system going off. It's been theorized that someone may have been waiting in the Viola house for Patricia to return. Possibly, in expounding upon this theory, her return home was interrupted by a burglar or another criminal inside, who then may have attacked or forced Patricia to leave against her will. Patricia's case remains open and unsolved and is considered a homicide investigation. There is a $10,000 reward for anyone who comes forward with valuable information about her death. If you have any information about the fate of Patricia Viola, please call Bogota Police Department at area code 201-487-2400. That's 201-487-2400. A special thanks to our contributor for this week's script, Reddit user source-commonsense. Your detailed and informative write-up will help spread Patricia's story. If you like what we do and want to see more, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much to our patrons. If you would like to support this channel, you can visit the link in our bio below.